What do you really need to know before moving to Georgia? Well, today we're going to start with the basics, like Georgia's a big state. Where should I move? How's the weather here? And is Georgia hospitality a real thing? So let's get started. Before moving to Georgia, everybody wants to know, what's the weather and climate like here? Well, we have 4 distinct seasons here. Outside of a long, hot, humid summer, the other seasons are pretty mild. We have a short, kind of cold, rainy winter. Georgia is more known for our weather freakouts than the winter weather itself. You may remember Snowmageddon or Snowpocalypse of 2014. Well, some parts of Georgia got several inches of snow, but for other areas, the ice was more of a problem than the snow. In Atlanta, for example, the storm brought only about 2.6 inches of snow, which may not seem like a lot, but it was enough to cause a lot of problems because we just were not prepared to deal with winter weather. The snow and ice caused thousands of accidents and left many cars stranded on the highway. Basically, people just abandoned their cars because they were freezing and they were hungry and they ran out of gas. Also, people lost power in their homes and the schools didn't release the kids in time. So a lot of the kids were trapped on school buses and at school, and parents were freaking out because they couldn't get to their kids. It was crazy. Since then, we've put some processes in place to avoid that situation in future. But you will notice that if the weather calls for snow, people will rush to the grocery store, clean out all the bread, milk, and toilet paper, and head home to hunker down till all the snow is gone, which is usually pretty quick. People work from home, kids are home from school, and as long as you don't have a major catastrophe, it's actually a pretty nice time. People have their cozy little snow day memories, and most of the time, everybody is super excited when we think it's gonna snow because it's so rare. Summer in Atlanta is long, hot, and humid. It usually starts in May, and a lot of times the temperature gets up into the 90s, which is hot, and the humidity makes it feel even hotter. The good thing is that basically everywhere you go in Georgia has air conditioning. Every house that's built in this century has central air conditioning systems, and all the stores and restaurants you visit all have air conditioning. So I will say sometimes it feels like you're just kind of running from one air-conditioned area to another, but that's just the way it is. And air conditioning is not something you can live without here in Georgia at all. You would just be very, very uncomfortable. And it's not uncommon for people to spend their weekends kind of lounging by the pool. Because of our warm climate and the abundance of trees that we have here, we get a pretty vicious pollen season. Twice a year in Georgia, pollen will completely cover your cars, patio furniture, your house, and you definitely do not want to leave your windows open for too long during that time because you'll get green powder everywhere. If you have bad allergies, pollen season is going to be a little rough for you, but most people just kind of learn to live with it with the help of Zyrtec and Claritin. The good news is that pollen season is usually followed by beautiful spring blooms or fall days. The spring and fall are absolutely gorgeous. The weather usually falls somewhere between 65 and 80 degrees with very low humidity, and people all over Georgia are enjoying the outdoors in parks and camping and hiking. It's a great time of year. The last thing I want to tell you about Georgia weather is that it's very unpredictable. We can be in the middle of a cold week in February, and then all of a sudden, we'll have these few days of 70-degree, beautiful spring-like weather, and you're like, what the heck? Where did that come from? You could be wearing a jacket in January and then all of a sudden the very next day be wearing a tank top. You never know what's gonna happen. Georgia really keeps you on your toes. And if you're like me, you never fully pack up all your summer clothes when winter hits because you never know when you're gonna need them. Another thing I wanna talk about is walkability. Unfortunately, other than living downtown in the city of Atlanta, you're not gonna find that Georgia is a very walkable state. You are going to need a car. For the most part, you will not be able to function without one. Now, there are some small cities that have built up their usually historic area to include restaurants and coffee shops, And that provides a small pocket of walkability for the people who live directly around that area. For example, the city of Alpharetta has Avalon, which is a shopping center, but it's really more than that because it has tons of restaurants and cafes and a movie theater and a grocery store and even a hotel. Well, surrounding Avalon, you'll find lots of apartments and condos and townhomes, and that gives those residents some level of walkability. I personally live in downtown Suwanee, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And Suwanee is a really good example of a small downtown area that's being revitalized to improve their walkability. And I really love that. I mean, I'm not able to walk to Kroger to buy groceries, but I do enjoy being able to walk to my favorite little cafe for coffee on Sunday, or even going down to the brewery to watch a game or meet friends. It's really nice. And if this is something that's important to you as well, it's a good idea to work with a real estate agent who can really show you all the different options that Georgia has to offer for small downtown living. The bright side is that parking is rarely an issue. There is plenty of parking lots, and pretty much every business provides some type of parking for the patrons. Another good thing is that although we don't really have taxis, we do have Ubers, and that's even in the suburbs. As far as transportation to and from public school goes, the public schools in your school districts have school buses that service that district all the way up through high school. I remember growing up in New York, I either had to walk to school or I had to take a public train or bus. So having school buses is actually really convenient and it's safe for the children. Now let's talk about school systems. As far as the city of Atlanta goes, the public school system is not rated the highest. However, if you're looking for a high-quality public school education, the outskirts of Atlanta is really where you want to start looking. Counties like Gwinnett County, which is nationally rated as one of the best public school systems. We also have Cobb County, Forsyth County, and the city of Beaufort. These are about 30 to 45 minutes outside of the city, and they're actually really popular places to live. You also have other options in the Atlanta area, such as charter schools and private schools. It's important to note that the private schools in Atlanta are actually pretty affordable compared to similar sized cities, so it's worth taking a look at before you just totally take that off the table. Beaufort City Schools are an example of a great school system that is located in the suburbs of Atlanta. Beaufort City Schools operate as their own school district. It was voted #1 school district by Niche.com in 2020, and let me show you why. This campus is absolutely gorgeous. They have state-of-the-art facilities when it comes to sports like football, baseball, basketball, and check out their theater. It's crazy nice. Aside from the campus, when it comes to academics, BCS has been crushing it. The district's SAT scores are 85 points above the state average and 124 points above the national average. As of 2021, the graduation rate is 95.9%, and the College Board has recognized it for exemplary scores in their AP programs. Now, obviously, if you live within the Beaufort City School District, your child can attend free of charge. But if you live outside the school district and you're willing to drive your child to and from school, there is an option for kindergartners and ninth graders to pay for enrollment. And in my opinion, it's actually very affordable at only $2,000 per year, which makes this a great alternative to private school. As you can see, Beaufort takes their schools seriously, and this is just one example of the great schools we have here in Georgia. We also have some really great colleges here in Georgia, like the University of Georgia in Athens, or Georgia Tech, or Emory University, Georgia State University, and all of these are located in the city of Atlanta. Georgia also has the Hope Scholarship, which is a program that provides financial assistance to eligible students. To qualify for the Hope Scholarship, you have to be a legal resident of Georgia for at least 12 consecutive months. You must have also graduated from an eligible high school with at least a 3.0 GPA, and you have to maintain that minimum GPA throughout your college career in order to keep the scholarship. The Hope Scholarship is funded entirely by the Georgia Lottery, and it's a great opportunity for students who qualify to get a really good education without racking up a ton of student loan debt. A lot of people want to know, where should I move? Georgia's a big state, where do I go? Well, most people have specific drivers or reasons for wanting to move to Georgia, like a job relocation or to be closer to family. But if that's not the case for you and you have no limitations, that decision is really going to depend on the type of lifestyle you want to live. Georgia is a big and diverse state, and we have everything from city living in Atlanta to beach living in St. Simons or Savannah. We also have a lot of lake and mountain communities. If you're considering the coast or the mountains, feel free to reach out to me and I would love to connect you with a great agent that specializes in that specific area. And that's really important because you want them to be familiar with the landscape of that area and guide you in creating the lifestyle that you're looking for. However, if you're looking for something in Atlanta or any of the suburbs of Atlanta, I'm your girl and I would love to help you. Another thing I get asked all the time is Southern hospitality a real thing? And yes, it most certainly is in Georgia. And I will say that it increases as you move away from the city. The city of Atlanta is all hustle and bustle like any big city. But the further you go outside of Atlanta, the more you will notice the Southern hospitality. It's not uncommon for a man to hold the door open for a woman or to offer to help her with heavy packages or help an elderly person with just about anything. People have manners and they expect manners in return. Southern hospitality also extends to driving. I don't know if you've ever visited New York, that's where I'm from, but you'll hear horns going constantly, and that's just not the case here. We don't use our horn unless it's an emergency. For instance, let's say you're waiting at a light and the person in front of you isn't paying attention. The light turns green and they don't go. It's okay to just usually go beep beep and kind of just let them know, hey, the light changed. And that person will usually do a little wave and say, sorry. And then you'll go along your happy day. Everybody's happy. If I hear somebody just kind of lay on the horn, my heart stops and I'm like, what happened? It's not something we do all the time and it's startling. Another thing is, if you're changing lanes and somebody is nice enough to let you in front of them, which is very common, you're expected to just kind of do a little thank you wave like, thank you. And if you don't, it's not uncommon to see that person give you a face like, rude. Oh, yeah, that's just the way we do it here. And honestly, it's really nice. And it's something that you're going to get used to if you move here to Georgia. Another example would be if you're taking an evening walk in your subdivision. Everybody you pass will typically say, hi, how you doing? Have a good evening. So you wouldn't just walk past them and not acknowledge the other person, even if you don't know them at all. Honestly, having moved here from New York, I was a little bit thrown off by all the eye contact and the waves and the haze. In New York, you're more likely, not to make eye contact. You just get where you need to go fast. You mind your own business, and you definitely do not talk to strangers. So when I came here, it was weird to have a bunch of strangers interacting with me all day. But now, having lived here for so long, I'm used to it and I like it. And I think you will too. So hopefully after watching this video, you agree that Atlanta is a great place to live and are a little bit more familiar with some of its nuances. If you're thinking about making a move to Atlanta, I would love to be a part of your journey. Please download my free relocation guide that's linked in the banner and contact me if there's anything I can do to help you. Also, if you haven't already seen it, please check out my video, Pros and Cons to Living in Atlanta. And let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like to know about what it's like to live here in Atlanta, and I'll be sure to cover it in a future video. Well, that's a wrap for the real things you need to know about living in Atlanta. Thank you for watching, and as we say in Georgia, bye y'all.